Halloween, a month of what used to be about scares and costumes, not relishing to being a small aisle while Christmas stuff takes over. What happened to the spirit? What happened to the fear? One of my favorite months of the year is gone. It's over. It's so forgone that it's already November, but I'm not going out without a fight. A month of horror calls for a horror game, a somewhat obscure, but not really because it's attached to one of the biggest franchises ever horror game. I'm talking about Resident Evil Zero. As someone who's in the unique circumstance where this was the first game I ever played, you could question my parents later on that one. This game makes no sense. It did it when I was younger, and it doesn't now. As I've gotten older and played through the other games, it's only gotten worse. So today, I'm going to answer 3 questions. Why does this exist? Should this exist? Is it any good? Who is this guy? I don't know who he is either. Starting out with the why, it's a tale as old as time itself. PlayStation, Xbox were the big players. PlayStation 2 could play DVDs, making it a movie and game console for the price of one. If there's any games that is your favorite outside of Mario, it was on the PlayStation. The Xbox had the greatest game of all time, and Halo 2. GameCube, its discs were tiny and small. But there's one company by Nintendo's side, and most likely a few blocks over in Japan, Capcom, with a deal no one would reject. Here is an exclusive Resident Evil game, a franchise that started on the original PlayStation. It's all yours, Nintendo. Have it. It's like getting a divorce, marrying someone else, and then still sleeping with your ex-wife because they were still releasing Devil May Cry on the PlayStation. What's this about? So Capcom gave them this, and later one of the greatest games to ever be made on the GameCube first, to be released everywhere else later on, which is how things are now. Nintendo is always first. Weirdly enough, Resident Evil Zero was made pretty soon after Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. It's only weird because the first game is Jill and Chris, the second game is Leon and Claire. The third game is Jill and Carlos. And in retrospect, the third game ended the Raccoon City saga. The fourth game going to Spain. Not to mention other side games like Code Veronica and all that. What's that have to do with Zero exactly? Zero is also just wrapping up the Raccoon City saga by providing a prequel, which, hey, it was the prequel era, I guess. Now, is it actually going to add something? That's for me to find out. Maybe it's time I actually play this game. And sadly, I'm the loser because I have a player's choice copy. You can get your laughs out now. I don't want to hear it any other time. Before the mansion, before the disaster, evil is born. Fight for survival. Use boar strategy. Nightmarish beast and non-stop terror. It's almost as scary as actually playing the game. Pretty standard instruction manual. Only cool part is this little star's notebook and all these little advertisements. Buy more Resident Evil, and while you're at it, visit Capcom.com. Okay, let's stop stalling. I'm avoiding the inevitable shock and terror and horror. I'm gonna 2 disc? The hell is the second disc for? Final Fantasy VII had 3 discs, with the last disc just being for the cutscene and the final boss. So maybe the second disc is just a special DVD feature. Who knows? Let's boot it up. And if your GameCube is old as mine, you gotta give it a little jump start sometimes. There you go. Trains this fancy in America? I must be dreaming. Alright, so the STARS crew crashed their helicopter right next to a police car that also happens to have the warrant of the other main character, Billy. It is very straight G. And their first idea is to spread out. Basic horror trope, where a main character, Rebecca Chambers, aka the least favorite character, who decides to go on a mysterious zombie train all by herself. Very smart. The entire first stage of the game takes place on this train, which I really, really like. I love this train. And not just because I like train. It's so damn confined. A lot of survival horror has made up these open sort of hallways to try and at least give you a chance to move past stuff. And sure, sometimes they're not that open, but in almost every Silent Hill or Resident Evil or anything else, you could just go right around the enemies. It kind of ruins the entire game, which destroys the fear that I was promised and the fear the game is trying so hard to encapsulate. Case in point, tank controls. Nothing different about these or any other instance of them, but I'd like to say they're a little bit smoother due to the GameCube's controller grooves. I'm just giving them a layup, I guess. Add that to the general dark sort of vibe of the train and you got some pretty good atmosphere. The only thing that's really bothering me is, do most trains have 2 floors? Okay, so most American trains have 2 floors. Maybe I'm the dumbass. The train within the game isn't some Amtrak train or something. This is a fancy train car, the 7-Star Express, with a dining room and actual cabin rooms. As I said, the tight corridors add to the experience. On top of that, the cutscenes look amazing. The models for the zombies and Rebecca both look great. This same engine was also used for Resident Evil 1's remake for the GameCube, Resident Evil 4, Devil May Cry, and later was turned into the MT engine for the Xbox 360, PS3, which later became the RE engine. And everyone loves the RE engine. As nerdy as that is, and I am a nerd, I just think it's a little neat. As for the gameplay, tank controls, check. Dark atmosphere, check. So where's our other character, Billy Straight Jeans?
You seem to know know me. Been fantasizing about me, have you?
Oh, god damn it. A personality type so fun they used it thrice. Leon.
Everyone going? Bingo?
Dante.
I can already tell. Looks like this is gonna be one hell of a party!
And Billy. All are almost the exact same character in the way they act, but that's not giving them enough credit. Quips, gaffs, goofs. And of course, the counter type, the tsundere. I'm never using that word again. I'm not using it. I'm not using that word. Bratty, feisty, whatever. Better than that. I never want to work with a guy murdered 23 people? Holy shit, Rebecca, lock this guy up. He's a maniac. Well, nothing to bring an unlikely pair together like zombies. Here's where you get to the fun part of this game. You ready? This isn't no standard Resident Evil formula. There isn't multiple runs per character. It's a partner-based game. They also use this one twice. Actually, they use this one 3 times, maybe even 4. Both characters have their own inventory. Rebecca can mix herbs. Billy is good at fighting. You can just make it so your ally follows you around, but if you want to control them, you can either swap by using really, really bad button placement. It's right next to the damn menu button. Nice planning. Couldn't make it on the D-pad or something? I'm actually asking because the D-pad's never used. You could use it as an opposite controller if you're used to the original PlayStation controls, which were on the D-pad, and then later on a stick. So why did they even add this? Otherwise, you can use the C-stick to control them, since the tank controls have been locked by the camera, just like DMC in every other Resident Evil game before Zero. Did I use this a single time? Hell no. It's literally just not useful. For the majority of puzzles, you use Billy because he's the strong one. For the majority of the exploring, you use Billy because he's the strong one. And for the majority of the entire game, you use Billy. I mostly just use Rebecca as my portable storage. We'll talk about all this later. When you have control of both players, you can simply move the storage between the two. Notice the first part. There's only 1 or 2 puzzles in the first train level that require any sort of advanced swapping between the 2 characters. Most notably, and the only one I actually enjoyed, the train elevator. So simple. Only a genius could think up such a mechanic. Rebecca is locked in the top floor of the kitchen cabin. Billy's locked in the bottom floor one. This little elevator allows the player to swap the items between the two since they aren't close by. Because when you are close by, you can just exchange. Mostly just right next to each other, not the same room. You only use this mechanic in the level to get Rebecca the ice pick to open the door, but she's the only one that can mix herbs, and Billy's the only one with a lighter, so one of them is a little bit more useful than the other. Otherwise, the puzzle is just leaving her in the room while you go do math. Only thing left about the train car outside of that is the bosses. This guy, very, very, very easy. Just shoot and dodge. Scorpion, you just stand in this corner right here. I'm not even joking. You stand in the corner, you shoot every single time it raises its little claws here, and you'll just win. I don't even think I got hit. Genius. Just absolute genius design. I love it. It is by far the easiest part of the game, which is extremely off-putting because frankly, there's a lot in this game that's a lot harder than most Resident Evils I played. Maybe it's because it's one of the last of the classical style and they wanted to go out with a little bit of a bang. Now I say that as someone who played on normal. I really do like this first level more than the police station, less than the mansion. As for the plot, it's basic stuff. Evil guy infected train, Albert Wesker's involved somehow. They just gotta shove him in the story every single time. I don't even think they gotta let go. But for some hidden tidbits, I like this note you find about this detective investigating Umbrella's involvement with the super virus. Oda level foreshadowing. I'm not here for the story. I'm not really going to bother you with it. If you want to take a guess what it is, I'll simply say 3 words. T-virus infection. Couldn't have guessed. Not much difficulty. There was only 1 jump scare, and so far the partner mechanic has not been used very well. Now, of course, you have the side I hate about survival horrors, and the main defining part of the genre. Resource management. So much fun. This is a job. This is a thing people get paid for. It's purely just a stressor. But that's the point. For some people, it adds to the horror. Me, just makes me a little bit annoyed. The ink ribbons are a part of it. Being locked out of saving is a bit too far for me, since it's not like the typewriter gives me anything but the ability to put the game down when I want. But here's the thing. This game gives you so many ink ribbon. You might as well have just not had it at all. You get 3 per save room. And if you're saving more than 3 times per save room, you probably got something wrong anyway. They just kind of got rid of the whole thing eventually anyway. Eventually as in 1 single game later. Thank God. But you know some people like it. But this game's resource management is just hell. Unlike all the others, you have Rebecca around, who does something that every single character Vinegar can do, Nick's herb. Why even split it between the two for gameplay purposes? Is it good? No, it's awful. As I said, barely anything creative was done with it as far as the first level. Maybe it'll change. That's also foreshadowing. The next level is just some mansion. It's labeled as a training facility online. Remember all that fun I had on the train? It's gone now. Here is the biggest thing this game does to drive me insane. The short corridors of the train had one benefit. Most of the camera angles were good enough that you could actually aim at what was coming. This is on purpose. And the whole point of the static angle is to make things, again, more stressful, but not scary. Might as well just remove horror from the genre and call it survival game. Surviving the eventual breakdown of having to get her out of the way. This game, God, this game. Rebecca just having to stand around as the item carrier, she just dies so much. The zombies will always target who is not you because they only stand in the worst spot, and manually moving them just screws you over unless you play claw style. On top of that, you can't give her all of the healing items because Billy does all the combat. But if you leave Rebecca in another room half the time, it just spawns a zombie to go get her. Then you have to run halfway across the map to help her. We solve this later. I'm having so much fun. It was such an evil design choice to have someone who just hinders the play, because giving her ammo to defend herself is just a waste because Billy's the combat guy, and the resources for ammo are just so. But that's the glory of survival horror, isn't it? You want to know what's sillier? Really, you ready for this? I had this problem for a little bit, and then I realized there is a room that you can shove her in and never have to worry about her. There is the save room. You could just put her in the save room. You don't even have to interact with her a single time. Most people would tell you just to put her in the save room or even just in a closet somewhere where no zombie's gonna appear. And there is so few puzzles that need her or even two people at all for most of the game. Once again, why is she even here? The training facility is just okay. I like the train more. The corridors are a lot larger, which in turn just make it a little bit easier. But the ammo is kind of low. In return, you get a lot of ink ribbons. I think I had about 5 or maybe even 7 by the end of the level. A couple of the annoying moments are mainly around enemy placement. There's these ravens that spawn in this room that are just impossible to dodge. But only and only if you grab this crank. That's when they spawn. Secondly, they put a stupidly strong enemy guarding this bathroom. So what was in there waiting for me? A single green herb and a gas canister. So worth it. In the first Resident Evil, the gas can is used to burn corpses to stop revives. In this game, just Molotovs, which are only used really later on, and only really useful against the Leech, but they give me more of them than they give ammo. Now, even worse about this section is the first genuinely hard section to slog through, the clock tower. God, man, I'm so sorry, game devs. I didn't mean to complain about Rebecca so much. I'll change. You don't have to force me to use her, all right? I'll just use her. A Rebecca only segment. You can't get around it. And God, have I messed up with 4 of these scorpions in a room full of ravens. Hallways with 2 doors. One is pretty much a death trap unless you react fast enough. Other one leaves you to the save room. That is right there. True terror. Good God. The whole mansion is full of zombies. In the first Rebecca segment, it's only these stupid ass scorpions. Ugh. This game has barely started, and I'm at my wit's end. You know what helped? This boss fight right here, it's very soon after the clock tower, may be the worst boss I've ever fought in my entire life. God, look at him go. So far, we've got a guy who walks very slow, which was just the Leech, Scorpion who can just be glitched in a corner, and now, greatest boss ever designed. FromSoft is begging the RE designers to come in and fix their game. Centipede who walks back and forth in the room and doesn't do anything. Yes, I got hit by it. You should try and play with these controls. They're awful. Just imagine a boss designed like this with the RE engine controls. Honestly, want to know what I think? Don't have it at all. Now do something scary. Like make me run away from spitting demons that I can't kill, or have some sort of death trap that'll squish me. Not included in the GameCube remake. Also, not to be a little baby about everything, but aren't we forgetting that Billy is a serial killer? 23 people! Just because he shoots a centipede, we forgive him? Really? Rebecca, he killed 23 people, man! 23! Oh, whatever. Anyone like puzzles? Ever had to set a clock before? And actual puzzle, the chess puzzle. And frankly, one of the few things I knew about this game. And one other hidden thing that I'll mention much later. Think you can find the solution? So I can understand why someone could find this hard. mostly because pushing things with Billy is like Sisyphus with his boulder, but you can just move the king out of check. That's the puzzle. It's simple, but I will be honest, I do like it. I'm not sure why this puzzle is something I've heard of before, but if you knew nothing about chess, this would be quite the pain in the ass to have to guess how to win. And that is pretty much the training facility. Put our statues on the scales, open the door. Puzzle-wise, it's just okay. There's just more of them. The clock puzzle is maybe the stupidest thing ever. It's just reading a note and putting the time in. The puzzle with the angel and demon statue are just about combining items with the statue and then putting them on the right spot. And the microfilm puzzle just is used to solve the next puzzle. The chess puzzle is maybe just a B at best. The solution is iffy and not obvious, sure, but it's just moving a chess piece. Vibe-wise, the training facility is slightly cozy, more than it is scary. You have 2 separate safe rooms back to back. A lot of the rooms are very open with very good camera angles on the enemies. Maybe there's something about these pre-rendered graphics that are just very pretty. Some of these rooms are just nice to look at, especially since it's one of the last games to use pre-rendered backgrounds in the Resident Evil era. Now some areas, like this, come on, you know what this is, right? Everyone's got one of these. I got 2. What is this? What kind of purpose does this room serve? Who the hell knows? I actually question the giant centipede more, since the 2 main characters don't talk to each other, they don't talk about it! Just let's keep going. Nothing at all? Really? Giant centipede, nothing? You're not gonna say a word? You've never seen one of these in your entire life. You're not gonna say a word? Frankly, the design of the training facility makes no logical sense. If you're working here, wouldn't you get annoyed if you had to use this 2-man crank just to go to the clock tower? Or having to light this candle to go read a book in a library? Not to mention, half the doors are locked by nights, and judging by the puzzle, if you don't have the clock set at 8:15, half the doors in the facility are locked. What do they do when the clock gets to 8:15? Is that just when you go home? That's just reading far into things. But Umbrella needs a better contractor for their evil mansions. Who knows who they're hiring to build these? Lastly, and the best part about the facility, you could shove Rebecca in one of these 2 training facility save rooms and go about your business. No zombies spawn in the save room anywhere near her, so she never actually gets attacked in either of the save rooms. There's only one save room in the entire game where she gets attacked at. Significantly easier than to train, outside of it being easier to be lost, especially with some of these puzzle solutions. Are you enjoying this video? Then subscribe. It'll fund the eventual remake of the game in the RE engine. So how far am I after all? Not even halfway through? So as far as gameplay goes, those 2 levels sum it up. Have Billy do 90% of the work. Rebecca has some sort of mandatory puzzle because they know that nobody's ever going to use her other one. And then you fight a boss. Sometime. Not always at the end of the stage. Usually in the middle before you do most of the puzzle work. The partner system still, up to this point, is very shit. Is disappointing and is barely worth having compared to the normal single player on 2 stories that we had in Resident Evil 2. But frankly, it is better than having to guard Ashley, since you can leave Rebecca in the save room and never actually bother with her. Outside of the chess puzzle, almost all of the puzzles in this game are just so boring. Just combine item, put it in slot. But that's what you get in most Resident Evil games. If you want puzzles, go play Portal. The rest of the game gets slowly harder, but the level immediately after the training facility is the stuff of nightmare. But before we go into that, let's actually talk about the difficulty. As I said earlier, there's some general fan opinion, which means a Reddit thread, that the hard mode of Resident Evil 0 is one of the worst out there, with actual soft locks from lack of ammo and healing items. On the flip side, the easy mode is the easiest one there is out there. I've been playing the entire game on normal. I've ran out of ammo once, but I have died multiple times, mostly just due to the item placement and the enemy placement. So how is easy? It's just Call of Duty. I'm talking 115 ammo in the train, never going under 100. Zombies only taking 1 or 2 shots. Healing items everywhere. What did you expect? Is it more fun? Of course it is. It gets rid of 99% of the stress of the game, which ruins the entire point of the genre. Yes. But why does a zombie need like a whole mag dump just to go down anyway? In the movies, it's just 1 shot to the head. These zombies are just tanky, so it's more realistic. Dumb argument. None of the bosses change, actually. They just take a little bit less damage. All the mechanics are the exact same. Same about the zombies too, just less spongy. This makes me very concerned for hard mode. Shockingly, the zombies just don't take that much more damage than normal mode. It actually feels like a little bit less for some reason. But you get no ammo. You die in 4 hits always, and there's little to no healing items. It's about what you'd expect. Now, if you wanted to be annoying, you could say this is the most realistic mode, because Y is a train full of ammo and green herb. But if you think that, you've obviously never been in America. There's ammo and green herb everywhere. The perfect difficulty would be the amount of ammo from hard, the health from normal, and the lack of sponginess of easy, since it balances everything out. The whole point of survival horror is to usually make the player feel weak and afraid and to have to fight enemies. Too much ammo? It's completely useless. Too little? It's unfair. But in some scenarios, it is necessary to make a good survival horror game. But a game like Resident Evil 0, where enemies are just respawning all the time, and some scenarios can't even be ran past as easy as a Silent Hill game, being able to take them out quickly, even with less ammo, is a good thing. Alright, let's speed it up a little. We're not even on disc 2 yet. No more distraction. The next level, the basement, is one of the worst experiences in my entire life. There's enemies that poison you now. Oh boy. Thank you, Capcom. That's exactly what I wanted. And with a poison enemy that has to be cured, we can move Resident Evil 0 from being a survival horror to a Souls-like survival horror. Thank you, Capcom, for your brilliant work. This is usually a thing in all Resident Evil games. You gotta find a blue herb to cure yourself, but what awaits beyond is the worst thing to ever exist. Just like every section, you have a part where Rebecca has to go out on her own. It's never too bad, but instead of playing her, she almost immediately gets stuck because of some Eliminator apes sent out by unnamed edgy main villain. So once again, Billy has to go save her, just like the last level. Beyond the apes being the worst enemy just ever put in a game. Oh my god, these apes are just awful. Now before this segment, you have to mess with the power, and it shows you some doors that have unlocked. One of these doors leads to an instant death, since it's a room with 3 apes, and unless you turn around quick enough, you're just gonna die. The other door is a boiler steam valve, which is the way you actually have to go. Also filled with killer monkey. By the way, you can't really kill him that easily, so just don't try. Thank you, Capcom. Very fun. Also, just even worse than all that, the cutscene before this just has Albert Wesker go, yeah, I'm gonna leave the story. I'm gonna go start the events of the first Resident Evil game.
I will follow my initial plan and lure the STARS members into the mansion. Their superior combat training should make them perfect test subjects.
So prequel over, right? We have our background. Albert Wesker just happened to be around the trading facility and then just went to start the first game. You could have just ended the game with Rebecca and Billy being eaten alive by the monkeys. There's still a whole disc left, but the intro to the basement is pure misery. And on top of that, I forgot to record, so I had to purposely go back in the death monkey trap room. The rest of the level doesn't really take place in the basement, which is the best part about it. The rest takes place in this weird mystical sort of crypt area next to the basement, which also is just as bad as the basement. Full of these miserable apes and more spiders and giant bug creatures and a new enemy again, the Hunter, which are these reptilian creatures. But before I continue with that, this game has decided to give 4 cutscenes back to back in one single level, so let's just talk about it a little bit. You learn that Billy was involved in war crimes. Very bluntly, that is what it is. The cutscene implies that he got involved, but whatever. Secondly, that Rebecca has the ability to contact one of the STAR members through her radio through the entire game. You could have called him over anytime. You know where you are. You couldn't have just called him over to help? Oh, who knows? Lastly, and most important to me, Rebecca still wants to turn Billy into the cops. Do you not see the situation? Lady, there is no cops. There isn't any. Neither of you are going to acknowledge where you are, what's going on, the fact that there's giant spiders and killer monkeys, you're still just concerned with your job? You know what? I'll give it to her. She is dedicated to being a cop. I guess nobody could have predicted that Raccoon City just gets nuked anyway. As I've said about this basement 3 times, miserable, unfun, very dark. Yes, it's a horror game, I know, but I think it's scarier if I could see what I'm supposed to be afraid of. But mostly, it's just about the spiders. Just held the spawn button down. I think you fight 7 of them, and they're all avoidable, but they're just so annoying, because if you do avoid them, they just spit poison at you, and then you're poisoned, then you gotta go find another blue herb. But the usual technique of leaving Rebecca in the save room won't work anymore, because unlike the training facility, the save room isn't attached to the rest of the level. It's just a side area. See what I mean? So you actually have to play the game. Damn you, Capcom. Instead of just having her follow you, unless you like healing her over and over again, you have to send Billy into the room first, and then send Rebecca over with a different gun. Don't even bother carrying both pistols. I'm being completely honest. Just throw one of them on the ground, and give one a shotgun, give one the pistol. Do it over and over again again. That's most of the game. To continue bitching, this is all in part with the inventory being very small. If you did want to have Billy be your main attacker and Rebecca carry your items as heals, it only works somewhat because they both need to have a gun. Because Billy can only really hold 2 weapons at a time, so if you want him to have ammo and a weapon, he can't have key items. So both of them can only have 1 weapon if you're lucky. With the Resident Evil remakes, you get the storage container and extra bag slot, specifically in the second game, which you can easily explain away with the lore since technology was actually able to add the bag to his hip. Thank you, RE Engine. This is an important balance. Too much inventory and you have no reason to manage anything. You can just grab whatever you want and never have to actually worry if you need to go back and get an item. Too little and you get foreshadowing for something in like 20 minutes or so. Maybe they thought having 2 characters which equal more than the default character space of RE2 and RE1 would help a little bit, but this game just has so many key items. If you were playing on easy, you'd see massive stacks of ammo, making it so you didn't even really need to bother worrying about it taking up your inventory. Just take whenever and heal whenever. But on normal and hard, ammo and heals are priority over key items. And there isn't much you can do about it because good God, there's 3 apes in this room, 2 in this room, and 3 spiders at this one. So good luck. This is only really important now because the basement level is combat heavy as much as you could possibly make it, almost like the last level is. It's the first time we get weapon upgrades, specifically for the handgun. I drop Rebecca somewhere, so it's just for Billy. Beyond being very combat focused, it's also just a very long level. It's split between the training facility and the cellar's basement, so long walks full of enemies, lots of items to pick up, and some unavoidable rooms with strong enemies like the human leeches, which actually provide the only scary part of the entire game because it starts playing dramatic music whenever they show up. This area will wear you down, and it feels so lazy. It would be cooler if you just went back to the training facility later, not immediately after you were just there. But then again, just like the manor in RE1, it's the focal point for most of the game's setting. That's a lie, by the way. It's not. You never see it again after this level. Now, strangely, there is no actual boss fight, just a boatload of enemies and some very annoying puzzles. First, we have the classic Electro box, trial and error. Second, we have this gates puzzle in the testing lab, or whatever you want to call them. Mostly just trial and error, but you have these 2 hunter guys that attack you the second the cutscene ends. It's a nice touch. I actually like it. Third, the animal statues, which is the least obvious puzzle in the game. So Capcom, I have decided to award you the Junior Puzzle Creator Badge. You have to light these statues up by their pecking order, or whatever you want to call it. At least that's how I'd explain it. It's just what animal eats what. Wolf eats the deer, the eagle eats the snake. You actually have to think somewhat like the chess puzzle and the train's math puzzle. What you aren't seeing is that the game is secretly just one high school exam for Rebecca to pass her STARS training, foreshadowing for about 30 minutes or so. The last puzzle is purely based on your inventory, having to hold 3 of these tablets and still be able to fight off more apes and some of these bug guys. This level also gives us our first weapon upgrade, as I said, but good God, look at this Call of Duty monstrosity of a pistol. Now, aesthetically, this level is cool, I'll be honest, but the observatory is the coolest part. I'm also just kind of a nerd. Torture chamber is cool. The actual basement is just kind of strange. It's too dark to even see what's there. There's always been a mystical mix with the science side of Resident Evil, so I'm not surprised. But this level isn't full of weird mystic shit we see in Resident Evil 4. But I hate how much backtracking is required. We were just in the facility. Give us some new areas to explore. The whole basement exists just to get the blue key to open up the blue door. What is this, Doom? I wouldn't act like this specific room isn't cool though, since it has this weird mystic vibe. I just spoke. But the Umbrella Labs aesthetics have always been a bit boring for a horror type of setting. The mansion is always better. I'll give another thing of credit to the level though. It's the first level where I actually felt like Rebecca needed to be near me, since there's so many puzzles that require 2 people, and also just humanoid leeches everywhere. They smack these fucks at every tiny hallway they can find. They're easy to run past, sure, but if you're lost, they're always gonna hit you. While I'm still on it, the worst thing by a mile is that you have to switch this mid-cutscene to even watch the rest of it. You didn't have enough memory to play the cutscene all the way out? Maybe not a problem for a working GameCube, but if you have to remember, I have to jumpstart it. Let's just find out what happens, I guess. This is some sort of joke. Not the split in half cutscene. That's whatever. I made the very bad decision of going into the first room I saw. You have to get Rebecca to step on this little pad thing in the corner, so only Billy or Rebecca can go in the church. That's fine. I assumed the door would unlock when you get back inside. But going into the single only door in the church takes you to a save room. Still with me? I knew the second I entered the save room and saw mounds of ammo and grenade rounds, it was over. I messed up bad. There's a boss outside the door, and all Billy has on him is this upgraded pistol. With that setup, you'd think I'm But watch this. You can just leave the room mid-boss fight and go get your items. No, I am not joking. As long as you keep Rebecca on the Switch, you could just walk out of the room. It dies in maybe 5 or 6 hits. It's very, very easy. Still to this point, none of the boss fights have really impressed me. But in all honesty, this kind of survival horror is never known for its good boss fights. When they actually have a good design, they mostly just move and shoot, which is fine. Not every game can do everything. I'll get into it a bit when we're actually done, but I have a lot to say about the combat in this and all older survival horror games. Now, as far as the boss room thing, I was worried I'd have to reload disc 1 and disc 2 to get to the older level. I didn't really bother trying to find out, so that's on me. So you could blame me, but I'm blaming Capcom. And while we're on the topic of multiple discs, let's get a little bit nerdy. The GameCube disc can hold about 1.5 gigabytes of storage, compared to the modern size of even 100 of the 200, which are only reserved for shitty sports games. It's shocking how well a lot of these games hold up. What's even more interesting is Mario Sunshine, which to me is graphically gorgeous and about 11 to 12 hours of playtime if you do a lot of exploring. There's only 1 disc worth of storage, while Resident Evil 0, which came out very early in the GameCube's lifespan, is somewhere around 6 to 5 hours depending on your knowledge, and maybe 10 if you're lost. But this is all based on the memory card, so it doesn't really even matter. It's 2 disc. I don't own any 2-disc GameCube games personally, but here's the thing. Resident Evil can't fit on 1 GameCube disc? 1? Was it a file size problem? You could complain about Nintendo using their weird disc type, which was hard to make games for. Yeah, sure. But what about this game is 3 to 4 gigabytes of storage? Is it a rendering problem? Maybe the models are a bit too high in resolution, or just not compressed well. Even Sonic Heroes fits on 1 disc, and that's the greatest game ever made. In modern times, if a game is too large, it is always a developer's error. If you want an actual guess on what I think it is, it's the pre-rendered backgrounds and the need for detailed models for all of the pickups. That's only a guess. If you know, you can comment and tell me. See? Farming engagement. Alright, so the bat's dead, the boss is on an odd location, and also now you just, I'm a little bit lost actually. No, they would. You know that part in Resident Evil 0 where you have to go back and get that hook shot for this hole in the ceiling?
Oh yeah. It's a pretty cool part of the game. Yeah, it ain't that bad. It's a little annoying, but yeah. What about it?
Between you and me, let's just say the game ended on the first disc, and I just edit the cutscene at the end of the game at the end of the first disc, right? And then I just quit and I don't go back and get it. What do you think about that?
Okay. First off, that's stupid as because what's the point of the review? You're not playing the game.
I mean, you
need to finish the game. You need to finish the game before you make the video. You don't see me playing raw metal trying to get the review out before I even beat the game. You have to beat the game first before the review video, bro. What the is wrong with you? You need to beat the game. And you need to get the whole experience. You're just skipping steps, bro. Do you think Angry Joe did that with his reviews? No, he did not. Do you think PBG did that with his videos?
He's using a Game Genie,
nah, bro.
MJ was using a Game Genie.
PBG, he's already played the game before. Look at Angry Joe. Angry Joe gets a badass seal of approvals, bro, because he's played the bro.
This game is not getting the badass seal of approval.
Because you're not playing the game. You need to play the game. Badass seal of approval. What the do you mean?
I'm not going back. I'm not getting it. I'm not going back. I'm not getting that shot.
You might as well not even upload the video, bro. You might as well. I'm gonna tell every one of the that you didn't touch the game. You need to touch the game.
I'm touching it.
No, you're not touching hard enough. I could touch you hard enough if you want to get touched, but you gotta finish the game. So get back out there, turn on the controller, turn on your GameCube, sit your ass down on the couch with your Doritos and the video, and play the game.
Okay, looks like I'm getting the hook shot. Alright, Billy, you've done everything else. It's time to do one last thing for me. It's go time. I actually did it. It's just 2 ape. I'm not really sure why I was blowing out the water so much. Tedious? Not even that much, but the 2 apes? Kind of scary. Not really. So the only thing I knew about this game before I played it was about the chess and the hook shot. I thought this run back would be all the way to Raccoon City or something. I will give it to some people. If you don't bring it into the training facility, then you'd have to go back to the train via the sewers. But it's just still as tedious as always. The apes are just dodgeable. Alright, time for the lab. There's always gotta be one. Shockingly, and I really mean shocking, it is the best level by far. By like a long shot. It's not even close. Best aesthetics for both horror and just the general vibe of Resident Evil. Rooms full of corpses, cool set pieces like these lab rooms, and the mortuary, I'll say the buzzword, environmental storytelling. Unlike most Resident Evil labs, it's actually inside of the mansion, meaning the walls, floors, and hallways all actually match the aesthetic of the rest of the game. Lore-wise, this is the oldest of the oldest for Umbrella's work, since this is Marcus's lab, the CEO of Resident Evil. Did I ever mention that? I guess not. It also has the best puzzles in the game. While they're not complex or anything, it's the first puzzle that actively punishes the player for not exploring the game. That's what I'm talking about. This is a good thing, just so we're on a thumbs up, thumbs down basis. You have these gas canisters, one in the training facility in the medical bay, and one here in the lab. If you remember from earlier, Rebecca's main gimmick is that she can only mix herbs, but when mixing her herb kit with the gases, you can get this sterilizing agent, which you can use to get a key to unlock this very egotistical door of the bust of Marcus, as I just said, founder of Umbrella. Here's his face at the training facility. I never mentioned it. The medical room is something you only find when exploring. So how about you stop rushing through the game and actually play the game you're trying to play? How about you play the game? Not my fault. I actually got it when I was already down there. Secondly, the only somewhat complex puzzle is this math-based one, if you could call it that, to open this dial, using this note that you find as Billy in the gas room. Outside of that, this level works like the train did at the start. You and Rebecca are forcibly split up, you as in Billy, and have to communicate with the service lift. But unlike the train one, you do actually need to use Rebecca to finish the second half of the puzzle, and she actually does need to fight and interact with the game. Why are they trying with this partner system all of a sudden? Maybe they were experimenting here in the lab, huh? Please don't go. Beyond aesthetics and puzzles, it uses the hookshot 3 times back to back. 3. I'm not even really sure why. I guess the developers also forgot the thing existed, kind of just wanted to shove it in your face after you had to go run back and get it. Surely won't need it a 4th time, will I? Right? Well, you don't actually throw it away at all, so foreshadowing. It also has a boatload of enemies, a bunch of human leeches, which die easiest to Molotovs, which I thought you made using Billy's lighter, but both Rebecca and Billy could both bake the Molotovs, so what the actual hell is this lighter for, besides for the single puzzle? I actually don't know anymore. The rest of the level, apes, hunters, zombies. What you'd expect. At the end of the level, you have this cable car section, which changes the game for the next level in a very big way. You'll learn about it in 4 minutes or so. You need the hookshot, 2 key items, healing, Molotovs, and both equipped with a weapon to fight. Billy, at this point, mainlining the shotgun, since he's doing all the hard combat. Rebecca's got the mollies, though. But to top all of the item space off, you then get the Magnum while you're in the cable car. This late in the game, a new weapon, which is equal to the grenade launcher, but not really. Capcom, where am I going to put this thing? You could have given me a holster. Oh, Leon had a damn briefcase. Where was he putting that? You don't gotta be logical now. These are all good things, of course, and so far the game hasn't really had too much that really stresses you out. That stress is important in a game so dependent on resource. If you're under pressure, you're gonna make mistakes. Partner that with the tank controls of the game, and it makes for a whole lot of wasting your ammo, taking hits where you shouldn't get hit, and trying to manage your inventory. I was honestly very impressed with the lab section. It was the first section that didn't feel like a 6 or like a 7 in terms of its design. It really reached the standard put in place by the 3rd and 2nd, so hopefully the next level will be just as good. Now Billy and Rebecca are split up, because of course they are. Not just by a swap, it is a solo Rebecca level. Here in the fact. Oh, you aren't prepared for this. Are you prepared? Are you sitting down? It's not just a boss fight. Oh no, it's a 9 Inch Nails themed boss fight. I'm really lacking on the jokes today. You fight the tyrant in this level. One of the staple Resident Evil enemies. Is it evil to make Rebecca fight it? No. Just grow up a little. You just got the Magnum. Just use it. By the way, that is the area. Tyrant's not even that hard. You just got the best weapon to kill the tyrant with. Just use it. But we do need to talk about this right here. First, how is this guy here? We haven't seen him since the intro. Is there something I'm missing? Did my disc skip a cutscene? Second,
It's unfortunate. If we go straight from here, we should arrive at an old mansion which Umbrella uses for research.
did he also just mention the mansion from the first Resident Evil game? Or does he mean the training facility? Buddy, we did it already. Catch up a little bit, would you? third, you know what, let's go back a little bit. Where did he come from? What is this room right here? I just don't understand. Why even have him come back around? Just for continuity's sake? The old phrase, if you show a gun in the first act, use it in the third or whatever, is not always true. You don't have to do it. We could have assumed he died like the 4 other people we were with. Lastly,
Rebecca. All right. Just be careful.
I never saw him again.
I'm really just supposed to skim over I never saw him again? Where did he go? He was just here. He didn't go up the elevator. We didn't even see him move. What is going on in this? What is going on anymore? I'm so confused. There's only one way out of the room. Did the tyrant kill him off screen? How didn't we hear the gunshot? I'm just so lost in this cutscene. I was finally reeled back in with this last level. Now you're gonna do this shit? All right, let's chill out. The factory level only exists to provide a way for the player to have access to this elevator, which can access the rest of the game. It's right here. It's not the worst thing aesthetically, but part of my description of it is perfect. It's just a rusty factory, whole franchise about them. I'll give it one thing though. This elevator is interesting that it had dedicated rooms that it takes you to that were inaccessible from the start. I mean, this thing will take you from the crash train all the way at the beginning, which would have been very useful in the lab section, and all the way back to that final level. We are actually now at the end of the game. What a journey it's been. Maybe a bit late to actually start trying, but I'll give them a break. Let's hope this last level blows me away. Are you ready for it? This level really outdid itself. First, we get another President Edge cutscene over here. Billy's drowning down the water hole, and we finally get control. This level is very interesting design-wise, since it's unlike most Resident Evil endings, which are all in the Umbrella Labs. It's half Umbrella Lab, half water treatment facility. Now, we usually would do all the puzzles back to back to back, but let's go as they come along this time, just so you can get a feel for the pace of this level. First puzzle is one of these press the buttons light up puzzles. Each button can light 3 points, which can all light 2 points. You could use logic, but brute force is always going to be easier. If you play a lot of games, you've definitely come across one of these types of puzzles. This puzzle actually just turns on the power for us. For all you water treatment workers out there, is this how this works? Do you have one of these? Let me know. Then you go through a bit of a training facility. Fight a good chunk of zombies, another human leech. This one just is a pain in the ass. Then you do some more walking, and you get Billy. With Billy, we have another puzzle almost immediately to get this spinny handle right here. Another video game staple. Box and floating water. More tedious than difficult, but it's another switch puzzle. You have Rebecca at the top using the switch to open this gate right here, which spins around, which allows you to push the boxes past it, and then eventually fill it up with water. Then, a room with 8 zombies. Yes, 8. Then a room with 2 hunters, back to back. And then you get the first save room with Billy and Rebecca together. Here's where we go a little bit off the beaten path of the level. I realized that I forgot my grenade launcher all the way back here in the lab. Thankfully, the map just shows where all your items are. It's the best thing about this game. But here's where we get to the inventory problem. Grenade launcher and a shotgun must have. You cannot forget them at any point of this game, and you'll always need them. You need a slot for ammo for both of them. Grenade launcher ammo is a pain in the ass to hold. Then you have the hook shot, which I'm not making that mistake again. The magnum and the pistol, both with their own ammo and healing items. And God forbid you decide to keep Rebecca's pistol with you as well. The shotgun is the most useful weapon for keeping yourself alive, by far, since it only takes 1 or 2 shots to kill everything besides boss fights. The grenade launcher is your boss killer. The pistol is your exploring weapon if you want to keep shotgun ammo. And then there's the magnum. You are expected to drag all of this shit around. I mean, hell, RE4 and the RE1 remake both have storages. Maybe back in the training facility part of this video, it was just tedious. But this late in the game, it's a dire problem. You cannot beat the game without the grenade launcher unless you're some sort of maniac. You'll see why in about, 5 minutes? Keep in mind healing and key items as well. Here's where we get back to forcing Billy to find that damn grenade launcher. Okay, so just go back and get it. Use the damn map. How naive. Haven't we been through this? Respawning enemies just everywhere. For some reason, they decided to just poop out hunters in every single room they could at this last part of the game. Just as another middle finger for you not going back and grabbing the grenade launcher every 3 seconds. Remember what I said about the hunters? You gotta use the shotgun. That's only a fool's mind, because the shotgun is the most valuable item in the game, and its ammo is even more valuable than the gun itself. They give out handgun ammo like Black Friday. You can't even waste a single shot of this shotgun unless you're sure you're gonna hit. Sometimes it's better to rip that band-aid off and get the damn goddamn grenade launcher. Okay, maybe I oversold the issue a little bit, but I was afraid to go back and fight. The loneliness of being so far from Rebecca, she's grown on me a little bit. Anyway, here's living hell. Another tyrant, just back to back. Guess they felt like they wasted design only making the player fight at once throughout the entire game. This one isn't even a special occasion. It gets a cutscene, but it's just here. You could use Billy and leave Rebecca, but you actually need her for this entire level, to be honest. I'll get to that in a minute. This is also the part of the game where I found out Billy's lighter is not necessary for the Molotovs. I mentioned that earlier. I just found that out in this part of the game. Here's where you get a very odd puzzle with another poop spew of enemies. You ready? Here it goes. Once again, you have to use Rebecca's canister on an item. This time, the blue and red ones you find to make sulfuric acid, which you combine with the water, of course, to make a battery. With the battery, you have to power this random forklift, which just, this took me forever to find, okay? And we are now officially done with the level. That's it. That's the final level of the game. It's short. It's not very hard. It's just not very long. I think it's 16 minutes. And there's almost no good puzzles, and there's almost no use of the partner system besides the one part where you split up and, Rebecca opens the dam. That's it. Depressing. Very depressing. And with that, all there's left is this final boss. Grenade launcher with as much ammo as I can. Shotgun, magnum, pistol, all I got. And I guess I got no room to heal anymore, so I guess I'll just have to be good. It's time to finally end this nightmare. And good God, is this the only boss they made that requires even the slightest amount of effort? It's not one, not two, but 3 phases. First phase is just damage. Then you get a save room full of items and all that. And trust me, you really do need every single one of these grenade launcher canisters. Then the two head up this elevator where the classic self-destruct sequence starts. Now we have the second phase, just damage but with a timer. Not so bad, but it does chew through some of the items you need for the next phase. Now it's time for the actual boss fight. Rebecca has to run around as a CPU and turn these levers which open this roof. The Queen Leech, which is what Billy calls it, is weak to sunlight, so opening the canopy will kill her. Billy has to sit with everything you got and stop the boss from hitting her at all. If she gets hit once, she has to start the turning all over again. This is on a timer as well. Both have their own health bar and can get hit at any time, so you have to keep watch that they're both not on orange health here in the corner. It's tough, it's rough, it's the first boss that requires you to actually have to try. Is that the Melania of Resident Evil boss fights? No, maybe more like the ROM. Thankfully, the save room is before the last 2 phases, and it has a mountain of ammo and heals. But the room you fight this final fight in is quite tight. But at the very least, CPU Rebecca isn't that bad at moving around the room. She's just kind of stands still some. Now let's get to the important part. I know what everyone wants. The cutscene I didn't talk about before this room. Boss room opens with this cutscene where Sar Edgy reveals that he's actually just Marcus. You know, the old guy whose face has been plastered across the game. So I really hope you remember that part by now. We find out Marcus was assassinated by this scientist that I can't remember the name of, and of course, Albert Wesker. Who would have guessed? The little parasite that we've seen throughout the game infects him, and it becomes Kime from Drakengard 2. This is the entire story's leading up point. We got some basic fighting cutscenes, which look pretty good for their time, I'll admit, but Final Fantasy X's got them beat by quite a bit. After you actually beat the boss, you get this very 2000s cutscene of Rebecca tossing Billy a revolver to just straight up fucking obliterate the Queen Leech. Awesome. And I don't think you're ready for this one. You need to sit. Are you ready?
Hey, that must be the old mansion that Enrico was talking about. I guess it's time to say goodbye. Officially, Lieutenant Billy Cohen is dead.
Yeah, I'm just a zombie now. Thank you, Rebecca.
I have no words. This is the ending. This is it. The game just ends. There's no running out of the building because we just did it. This is the ending. And then Billy just hits the Dale Cooper thumbs up on her. Okay, let's be a little bit positive, all right? Is the ending sweet? Yeah, sure. It's satisfying that they had a very normal goodbye and not some underwater super kiss. It's very rare for a male and female character in a game that just don't end up in a relationship or flirt the entire time, unless you're playing a game with good writing. Is this one of them? God, just not even close. But I respect them just being friends. Billy gets to go free and avoid his time at The Hague, and Rebecca has to live on knowing that everyone she knew is most likely dead, and if you know what happens soon after this game, the city that she works for is about to go away. You may be saying, you must have not talked about the story. No, I mentioned every cutscene that shows up. There's about 5 in total, maybe. That's it. This is the plot. Brown-haired guy is Marcus. Albert led the Star members to the mansion. Rebecca sees the mansion, and the best friend of the main character is Leon. You came for a Resident Evil game for good writing. That's your own damn fault. I came for Leech Hunter. Leech Hunter? Let's just switch our disc here. This is one of those extra game modes that you can dress Billy and Rebecca up in costumes. How nice. And you collect the green and blue Leech charms for some extras for another playthrough like Extended Magazine. What's the problem? Out of place? I don't know. I just found about it too. Okay, look, the ending is stupid as hell. Just has nothing to do with the first game. Besides just having the mansion in a background of this fucking final cutscene. And it really just didn't need to be attached. For some reason, the prequel game was just all the rage around this generation of consoles. We got a boatload. Final Fantasy Crisis Core, Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, Devil May Cry 3. This is about to expect. But what those do well, that Resident Evil 0 doesn't, is actually integrate itself in a meaningful way. Crisis Core, which I doubt anyone's played, tells us about Zack, a character teased throughout all of Final Fantasy VII and a major part of the twist for Cloud's character. Metal Gear Solid 3 gives us the origins of the big boss, Snake and his clones, and recurring characters like Revolver Ocelot. Without it, Metal Gear would lose a solid chunk of its depth and lore. DMC3? I don't know, it's got Virgil and Dante in it. It's good enough for me. The only real crossover this game does is the fact that they have to keep jingling the mansion from RE1 exist in the background over and over again. And of course, Albert Wesker, who maybe actually just appears in every single game in the entire franchise. There was no need or even a curiosity to anyone to what happened before the first game, because there just wasn't anything there to begin with. The first game barely had a plot either. There's nothing setting itself up. Even if you go play the remake, which was probably made to, rewrite some things, it's not there either. So what's the point? Okay, do I know every single writer who personally worked on the first Resident Evil game and the remake to prove that this is true? No, but I'm making an assumption. So let's get back to the very start of this video and wrap it up. Is this game good? Let's rehash. Well, 2 levels are, at the very most. The train is solid, makes for a good horror setting, introduces the basic mechanics of the game very well, I'll give it that, and makes for a good starting level. But I refuse to forgive the game for its hookshot. The aesthetics are very pretty, the angles are great, and there's actual frightening moments, and ammo still feels scarce this early on in the game, but still fair. The puzzles are just okay, but good as a beginner level puzzle, I'll give it that as well. The 1 number puzzle is probably the only one that's hard compared to the rest of the game. I'd honestly give it a 7 out of 10. The training facility is the real first level, but it falls very hard on his face for trying to find a good use of this partner system. The majority of the level is taken up by these 2 safe rooms, so there's not really that much to find, with Billy being able to do all of the work pretty much by himself, besides for the library and the classroom. The only real hard enemy is the bug guy, but they are very easy, especially because it's the level where you unlock the shotgun, which is just the best weapon in the game. Good amount of ammo across the level, but there isn't that much to explore. Aesthetically, the RE1 mansion, a little bit more interesting. Tighter corridors, tighter spaces, while the training facility puts most of its enemies in easy to avoid location, but it looks good either way. I really like the wet room. The boss of this level though is a fucking joke. The only slightly challenging puzzle is the chess one, and it's just trial and error unless you're like a grandmaster at chess. Grandmaster at chess meaning moving a piece out of check. Overall, 6 out of 10. The basement is the lowest point in actual gameplay. It is stale, it is dull, and there's just like nothing interesting about this level, besides for having the best cutscene in the game, so I'll give it that. The only memorable thing about this room is the room with all the animal statues and the room with all the spiders, because it's just a little bit creepy. Most of the levels take place just going to areas of the training facility that were not available the first time around, which I just think is very lazy. As I said before, maybe this would have made good 2 levels away from the training facilities level, but right after is annoying as hell. And it technically just doesn't have a boss fight, unless you count the giant bat, which is just, it's not even on the same disc. The puzzles outside of the pecking order one are all just mediocre, and it only uses the partner system in a way that we've already used it multiple times throughout the level by this point. It's also just so easy to get lost. Aesthetically, has some cool locations, I guess, if you include the church. I don't know if it's part of the lab or the basement section, but the basement's got some neat locations. Overall, a whopping 2 out of 10. Damn, that is low. Then we move on to disc 2, which has the best level in the game, the lab. Good puzzles both on the solo front and with the usage of partner. Having Rebecca and Billy both having to survive on their own without having to rely on Billy for either of them is just fun. Something that happens from here till the rest of the game. The main puzzle that really sparks me is the Leech charm, which requires Rebecca's chemical set with the mixing of the blue and green chemicals, forcing the player to either have gone back to go get it or to have just explored originally. It is a unique kind of puzzle and I appreciate it a lot, just like the animal one with Billy's lighter. Having Rebecca on the bottom floor and Billy on the top floor is just a callback to the first level, which is always a fun thing in my opinion. But this time, as I said, both actually have to do something besides for Rebecca just being stuck in a locked room. Aesthetically, it is the coolest lab I think I've seen from the entire franchise, since it's set in this old castle rather than some super sterile, clean lab. It's got some decent frights with the human leeches and surprise hunter attacks, but there isn't much for puzzle work outside of the Leech charm. Overall, 8 out of 10. Factory level, joke. 6 out of 10. Whatever. I guess the aesthetics are nice and it was interesting to have Rebecca doing a solo boss, even if you gave the best weapon to fight the boss right before it. The water treatment plant is quite equal to the lab, but it's got some heavy problems that I just don't like. The level really isn't that long for a final level. It doesn't feel very good for a final level either, but it has some very old, very classic puzzles, which are 100 times more interesting than this chess one. I got the light up buttons, the crate push, and the only one I didn't like was the battery. Not because it uses Rebecca's kit, but more because I couldn't actually find what to do with it, since the place where the battery goes is hidden by this camera angle. A real downside of this level is that it just plopped enemies everywhere they could think of, which you just really should do for a final level, but it's not very fun. It's not like they plopped hard enemies, just ammo wasting zombies. It also doesn't use the partner system in a very unique way till the boss fight. But I will admit, and I really do hate to admit this final boss is excellent. I loved it. Best boss in the game, and it might be one of the better bosses throughout the entire franchise. Very low bar, but it does have mechanics. So it's a 7 out of 10 for this level. On average, that makes it about a 6.5 out of 10 for the gameplay with all of this together. But there's 2 things left. Will the story save it? Will the story save its score? God, just no. Not in the slightest. The story is a solid 2 out of 10. The only real thing I can give it is, honestly, the ending was good enough for me. I'll give it that. It concluded in a way where I feel like I didn't care enough anymore. That's pretty rare. But what I did need was something in the middle. We already went through how it's a bad prequel, but on its own 2 feet, ignoring the prequel thing completely, it's still a bad game. It's still a bad game. Rebecca is extremely boring. Doesn't have any personality besides just being a little bit of a meaner Jill, I guess. I don't even know how to explain her. She's just like your average woman character alongside a male character in a video game. Billy, at the very least, has some sort of story, questionable as it is. The game does imply that he stopped the war crime that he was participating in from taking place, but got in trouble anyway, so now he's on the run for the rest of his life. The villain of the story is just oddly not around. In most games, you'd at least feel their impact through the level. Instead, it just adds apes, and that's about it. The 2 main characters never actually meet him a single time before the final encounter, or even know he existed until the final encounter, which is just always amazing. But Resident Evil games are not known for their mind-blowing stories. Graphically, it is stunning. It looks very good for 2002. I have always loved the use of static and locked camera angles. There's multiple instances across the level where the locked angles help with finding items or just providing a cool angle to look at them. It makes things feel cinematic, but in a gameplay sense, it makes it more difficult, but that's a good thing, since your controls are getting taken away from you, which just makes a survival horror more of a survival horror. But let's keep it purely graphic, shall we? Cutscenes, they're fine. They're okay. I've been spoiled from those Square Enix cutscenes around the time, so you know what? For a GameCube game in 2002, it's a solid 8 out of 10 on the graphics. So let's go back to the starting question. Is this game even good? It's alright. Want to hear it's the worst thing ever made? It's not even close. It's not even the worst Resident Evil game ever made. It might not even be the worst Resident Evil mainline game. Maybe the second worst. I was stuck the whole time just wanting more from it, expecting something more innovative, but it just never came. Blandness. There's nothing that really makes it feel like it needed to exist in any sort of way. I never found myself playing Resident Evil 1 and wondering what happened before this, like I have with games like Metal Gear and Devil May Cry. It's not a bad bad game, or really even a super unfun game by any means. If you are a fan of Resident Evil games, this would just be one of the mid ones. And that's all it is, mediocre. So let's answer our final big question. Why does this game exist? You might want to sit down. This is genuinely my opinion. Throughout my time playing it, I mentioned multiple times about the partner system, because the whole time I had a nagging thought in the back of my head. There is another Resident Evil in the same engine, on the same console, that also uses a partner system. Is this game just a beta test for Resident Evil 4? Is this whole game just a way to test out what players would have thought of another person to worry about? Have something you need to lead around and take care of? Was this whole game just a prototype to modify to make Resident Evil 4 better? Where's your evidence? You can't just say things. Yes, I can, and I did. I do have proof, just not very good proof. Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 0 started their development around the exact same time. Both are made in unnamed Capcom engines, both for a Nintendo console, both exclusive for GameCube, except RE4 was later released on the PlayStation 2 and the PC, but it did start as a GameCube exclusive. RE0 came out 2 years before RE4, but while RE0 was technically only in development for around 4 years, Resident Evil was almost in development for around 6. So here's my theory, my game theory. RE0 showed that most players were just gonna use Billy, and were avoiding using Rebecca for any reason, especially combat like it's the plague. Maybe they expected this with how she's forced to use in multiple points of the game. So when RE4 came around, 2 years later, you never actually play as Ashley in any real way. You do in the remake for like one single section, but in the original, it's just Leon, who does all of the combat, has 2 people's worth of inventory space by himself, and can control Ashley through commands rather than having to swap to her, just so the player didn't have to constantly swap key items and weaponry from Ashley and Leon. Does it make a lot of sense with how game development works? No, but how about you come up with something better? Because that is my genuine answer. So let's end it with this. Would I recommend this game? Yes, actually, it has some good laughs. Would I replay it? Maybe, only if I was replaying all of Resident Evil back to back. For the big and final question, should this game have ever been created? As a prequel? God, no, it's off. As a console exclusive Resident Evil game? Yes, it's great. And that is all. Goodbye, everyone. And happy Thanksgiving. It's probably already close to it.